Admiral Lyra Denholm stared at the holographic display with tired eyes. Another colony had gone dark. The 7th this month. She rubbed her temples and sighed deeply as the other members of the Alliance Council argued around her. "Our best warships can't even track them," said Representative Zorbin, his blue scales rippling with frustration. "They appear from nowhere, attack, and vanish before our defense fleets arrive." 300 years, whispered Lyra. The room fell silent as she spoke. For 300 years, the Voidborn have attacked our worlds. Our best minds have failed to understand their technology. Our strongest weapons cannot pierce their shields. She looked around the circular table at the representatives of 50 different species. "We have tried everything in our collective knowledge." "Almost everything," she corrected silently. "The Kaleri defense system was our last hope," said Chancellor Vex, his crystalline form dimming with despair. "If technology that advanced failed to stop them, what options remain?" Lyra took a deep breath. What she was about to suggest would be controversial. "There is one species we haven't asked for help." The council chamber erupted in shocked whispers. Representative Zorbin's scales turned pale. "You cannot be serious, Admiral. The humans. They are savages," hissed Councillor Thrix, her antennae twitching nervously. "Their history is filled with violence against their own kind." "Their ships are primitive," added Vex. "Their weapons are crude. What could they possibly offer against an enemy that outmatches even our combined might?" Lyra activated a new hologram. A small blue planet appeared, spinning slowly. "Earth, third planet of an unremarkable yellow star. Yes, their technology is behind ours. Yes, their history contains much violence." She zoomed in on the image, showing cities, oceans, forests. "But consider what they have accomplished despite their limitations." The display showed images of human history, crude aircraft evolving into space shuttles within a single century, early computers transforming into global networks in mere decades. "Humans adapt faster than any species we've encountered," Lyra continued. "They solve problems in ways we would never consider. Their thinking is," she searched for the right word, "unpredictable." "That's precisely why we limited contact with them," Zorbin said. "Their unpredictability makes them dangerous." "Yes," Lyra agreed, "but perhaps we need dangerous now. The Voidborn have become comfortable with our predictable responses. We fight according to established patterns. Humans don't." She pulled up a final image. A primitive human spacecraft that had somehow managed to escape a Voidborn attack 5 years ago, despite all odds. "Captain Jack Miller," she said, pointing to the human commander's image. "His ship was badly damaged. His weapons were useless against the Voidborn vessel. Yet he escaped by flying directly into a solar flare, using the radiation to mask his ship's signature. No Alliance captain would have attempted such a risky maneuver." The council members looked at each other uneasily. "We've tried diplomacy. We've tried conventional warfare. We've tried hiding," Lyra said firmly. "Meanwhile, the Voidborn grow bolder. The latest reports suggest they're pushing toward the core worlds now. If they can't be stopped." She let the thought hang in the air. Chancellor Vex's crystalline form brightened slightly as he considered her words. "What exactly are you proposing, Admiral?" "A small mission. We contact Earth, specifically Captain Miller. We ask for their help not as subordinates, but as equals. We bring them into this fight precisely because they think differently than we do." The council chamber fell silent again. "The Alliance has stood for peace and order for 1,000 years, said Councillor Thrix. "Inviting humans into our affairs goes against everything we believe in." Lyra nodded. "Yes, and that is exactly why the Voidborn won't expect it." She looked around the room, meeting each councillor's eyes. "We have exhausted all conventional options. Now we must try something unconventional. The humans are not like us. Their unpredictability terrifies us. But right now, we need someone who can terrify the Voidborn." After a long silence, Chancellor Vex spoke. "Send the message to Earth. May the stars help us all." Captain Jack Miller stared at the message on his screen for the 5th time. He couldn't quite believe it. The Galactic Alliance, which had politely but firmly kept humans at arm's length for decades, was now asking for help. "They must be desperate," he muttered, running a hand through his short brown hair. Jack looked around his small office aboard the ESS Pathfinder. Earth's interstellar navy wasn't large. Just 27 ships that patrolled the solar system and maintained the few colonies humans had established on nearby stars. The Pathfinder wasn't even the newest or the biggest, but Jack knew his ship and crew were special in one important way. They thought differently. He pressed the intercom button. "Senior staff meeting in 10 minutes. When his team gathered in the briefing room, Jack shared the Alliance message. Their reactions were predictable. "It's a trap," said Lieutenant Abby Winters immediately. She was the ship's tactical officer, and suspicion was her default state. Her red hair was pulled back in a tight bun, and her green eyes narrowed as she spoke. "The Alliance has made it clear they think we're too violent and unstable to join their club. Now suddenly they want our help." Dr. Peter Blackwood adjusted his glasses thoughtfully. The tall, thin xenobiologist was the only civilian among them. "Not necessarily a trap. The Voidborn are real. I've studied the few readings we have of their ships. Their technology is remarkable. If they've been attacking Alliance worlds for centuries, the situation must be dire. The real question is why us?" Technical Sergeant Frank Rogers leaned forward, his dark hands clasped together on the table. "The Alliance has ships that make ours look like toys. What do they think we can do that they can't?" Communications specialist Lisa Summers had been quiet, her fingers tapping lightly on the table. Everyone turned to her when she finally spoke. "They want us because we're unpredictable." Her voice was soft but confident. "The message mentions Captain Miller's solar flare maneuver. That's not standard procedure in any military handbook. They're looking for people who don't follow rules." Jack nodded. "That's my red too. They've tried fighting the Voidborn their way. Now they want to try our way." Abby frowned. "So they want us to be the crazy humans who do the stupid, dangerous things their captains won't try. Sounds like suicide. Or the opportunity of a lifetime," said Peter, his eyes bright with excitement. "Think about it. Access to Alliance data on the Voidborn, a chance to study alien technology up close." Frank grinned, "and a chance to show off some human ingenuity. I've got at least a dozen modifications I've been itching to try that would make the safety inspectors scream." "If we do this," Jack said slowly, "we're not just representing the Pathfinder. We're representing Earth, humanity. The Alliance has kept us on the sidelines for years because they think we're dangerous. This is our chance to show them that sometimes dangerous is exactly what's needed." Lisa looked around the table. "The Alliance thinks in patterns. Their society is built on order and predictability. The Voidborn have learned those patterns, but they've never faced humans in battle. So we surprise them," said Abby, warming to the idea despite her initial skepticism. "Hit them in ways they don't expect." Jack stood up. "I need a unanimous decision. This mission will be high risk. If anyone wants out, say so now." No one spoke. "All right then," Jack said with a nod. "Lisa, send our acceptance. Frank, prep the ship for deep space. Peter, I want you reviewing everything we have on the Voidborn. Abby, start thinking about unconventional tactics." As his team left to prepare, Jack looked out the viewport at the stars. Humanity had always wondered if they were alone in the universe. Then they had discovered they weren't, only to find that the galactic community viewed them with caution and concern. Now those same aliens were turning to humans for help. "Well," he said quietly to himself, "time to show them what humans can do." The Helios station hung in space like a giant metal flower. Its 6 enormous petals housed representatives from different parts of the Galactic Alliance. Jack had never seen anything like it. The Pathfinder looked tiny as it approached the massive structure. "They're hailing us," said Lisa from her communication station. On screen, Jack ordered, straightening his uniform. Admiral Lyra Denholm appeared on the main display. Her silver skin shimmered slightly, and her large purple eyes studied Jack carefully. "Captain Miller, thank you for coming. Please dock at Bay 12. My team will meet you there." 2 hours later, Jack and his team sat in a large meeting room with Admiral Denholm and representatives from 5 different alien species. The walls displayed images of voidborn attacks on Alliance worlds. "As you can see," said Denholm, gesturing to a map of the galaxy, "the voidborn attacks have increased over the past year. They're moving deeper into Alliance space." "What exactly are they?" asked Peter, leaning forward with interest. A tall, insect-like alien named Thrix answered. "We don't know. In 300 years, we have never captured one of their ships or seen them outside their vessels." Jack frowned. "You've been fighting them for 3 centuries and don't know what they look like." The alien representatives glanced at each other uncomfortably. "Their technology is far beyond ours," explained Denholm. "Their ships can appear and disappear without warning. Our weapons barely damage their shields." "Have you tried talking to them?" asked Lisa. "We've sent thousands of communication attempts in every known language," said a crystal-like being that introduced itself as Vex. "They never respond." Abby studied the attack patterns displayed on the wall. "They hit then run. Classic raiding behavior. What are they taking?" "Resources," replied Denholm. "Mostly energy sources, fusion materials, antimatter, even raw power from our generators." "So they're hungry," said Frank thoughtfully. "Or their ships need fuel." Jack stood up and walked to the map. "Show me where they go after the attacks." Thrix clicked her mandibles nervously. "We don't know. They simply vanish." "Nothing just vanishes," said Jack. "They have to go somewhere." Peter was studying the data on his tablet. "Has anyone analyzed the radiation signatures after they disappear?" The aliens looked at each other in confusion. "Of course," said Peter, excitement growing in his voice. "You're all looking for ships or warp signatures. But what if they're not using conventional space travel?" Before anyone could respond, alarms blared throughout the station. The lights dimmed to emergency red. "We're under attack," said Denholm, her voice surprisingly calm. "The Voidborn never hit the same place twice. This station was attacked just last month. They shouldn't be back so soon." The room shook violently. Displays showed a massive dark shape appearing near the station. "It's bigger than any Voidborn ship we've recorded," said Vex, his crystalline form pulsing with anxiety. Jack turned to his team. "This is why they wanted us. Abby, what's your read?" Abby studied the tactical display. "They're targeting the station's power core. Typical for them based on the briefing." But she paused. "Wait, something's different. They're ignoring the defense ships completely." "They're learning," said Lisa, "adapting their tactics." Another explosion rocked the station. Smoke began filling the room. "Station shields are failing," reported Denholm. Frank grabbed Peter's tablet and quickly connected it to the station's systems. "I need to see their energy signature," he muttered. Peter looked over his shoulder. "There. That fluctuation when they fired. It's not like normal weapons." Jack made a quick decision. "Admiral, can we access your communications array?" Denholm nodded and gave him access codes. Lisa took over a console and began working quickly. "If they're using energy weapons that powerful, there must be feedback in their systems. I might be able to trace it." As the station shuddered around them, the human team worked with surprising coordination. While the Alliance representatives prepared evacuation protocols, Jack's crew was moving in the opposite direction, towards the danger. "I've got something," Lisa said suddenly. "A pattern in their attack sequence. They're not random at all." Peter nodded excitedly. "And I think I know where they go between attacks." For the first time since the humans arrived, Admiral Denholm looked genuinely hopeful. 3 days after the attack on Helios Station, the Pathfinder joined an Alliance defense fleet near the Proxima sector. Jack stood on the bridge, watching the Alliance ships form a perfect, orderly formation. "They're doing it again," he said to Abby, who stood beside him. Perfect lines. Perfect spacing. Perfect targets, she replied with a frown. They never learn. Since the attack on Helios, Jack's team had been working nonstop. Peter and Lisa had discovered a pattern in the Voidborn attacks that no one had noticed before. Frank had modified their sensors to detect trace energy signatures the Alliance had overlooked. Admiral Denholm's face appeared on the main screen. "Captain Miller, is your ship ready?" Jack nodded. "We're ready, Admiral. But I need to ask one more time. Are you sure you want to try this our way?" The Alliance commanders had been shocked by the humans' battle plan. It broke every rule of engagement they had followed for centuries. "We've tried our way for 300 years, Denholm replied. "Now we try yours." Jack turned to his crew. "Battle stations. Lisa, keep monitoring those frequencies. Frank, power up your modifications. Abby, get ready to execute your crazy plan." Abby grinned. "It's only crazy if it doesn't work." The wait was tense. Alliance ships remained in their perfect formation, weapons ready. The Pathfinder, however, drifted behind a small moon, seemingly out of position. "Contact." Lisa suddenly called out. Voidborn energy signature detected. A massive dark ship appeared in space, its surface absorbing light rather than reflecting it. It was shaped like a giant arrowhead, easily 3 times larger than the biggest Alliance vessel. "They're targeting the Alliance power stations on Proxima IV, reported Lisa. Jack waited. The Alliance ships began to move forward in perfect unison, just as they had in every previous battle. "Now," he ordered. Unlike the Alliance vessels, the Pathfinder cut its engines completely. Using only short bursts from maneuvering thrusters, it drifted silently toward the Voidborn ship. "They're not tracking us," whispered Lisa. "The power dampeners are working." Frank had modified the ship's systems to operate at minimal power, making them nearly invisible to sensors. It was a risky move. They had limited life support and no shields, but it was working. While the Alliance ships engaged the Voidborn from the front in their traditional attack pattern, the Pathfinder approached from behind. "In position," said Abby, deploying mines. Instead of using conventional weapons, Frank had created special devices that attached to the Voidborn ship's hull. They weren't designed to penetrate its powerful shields. They were designed to travel with it. "All mines attached," Abby reported. "Now we wait." The battle above Proxima IV followed the same pattern as hundreds before it. The Alliance ships fired their weapons uselessly against the Voidborn's shields. The dark ship ignored most of them, focusing on draining energy from the planet below. Then, without warning, it disappeared. "Tracking activated," said Lisa excitedly. "The mines are sending data." For the first time ever, they could see where a Voidborn ship went after an attack. The tracking devices showed it moving through what Peter called subspace, a dimension parallel to normal space but impossible to see without special sensors. "They're heading toward coordinates at the edge of the galaxy," said Peter, his eyes wide with excitement. "They have some kind of base there." Jack looked at the data in amazement. One simple, unconventional tactic had just provided more information about the Voidborn than the Alliance had gathered in centuries. Admiral Denholm's face appeared on screen again. Her expression showed both shock and respect. "Your plan worked, Captain Miller. The Alliance Council is impressed." Jack smiled slightly. "This is just the beginning, Admiral. Now that we know where they go, we can find out what they want. And once we understand that, we can stop them," finished Denholm. Frank grinned at his fellow crew members. "Not bad for a bunch of primitive humans, huh?" "The Alliance has been fighting by the book," said Jack. "But sometimes you need to throw away the book." The success of the Pathfinder's mission changed everything. Within a week, Admiral Denholm had created a special task force with 5 Alliance ships and the Pathfinder. For the first time, alien crews worked directly with humans. Jack walked through the corridors of the Alliance flagship, Celestial Guardian. Aliens of different species nodded respectfully as he passed. It was a stark change from the suspicion they had shown just days earlier. In the main briefing room, a mixed team of humans and aliens gathered around a large holographic display. It showed the edge of the galaxy where the tracking devices had followed the Voidborn ship. "This structure is massive," said Commander Greg Patterson, a fellow human who led the stealth team. He had dark skin and sharp eyes that missed nothing. "It spans nearly an entire solar system." The hologram showed what looked like a giant web of dark material stretched between several dead stars. Strange energy pulses moved along the web toward a central point. Dr. Catherine Bell, a brilliant human physicist with short blonde hair, pointed to the central hub. "They're collecting energy. These pulses contain the same energy signature as what they steal during raids." Fricks clicked her mandibles nervously. "But why? What do they need so much power for?" Peter had been studying the data for days. He looked tired but excited. "We think they're trying to power something at the center of this structure. Something massive." Admiral Denholm frowned. "A weapon? Or a gateway?" suggested Lisa. "These energy patterns remind me of theoretical wormhole research from Earth." The room grew quiet. The idea that the Voidborn might be creating a doorway to somewhere else was troubling. Jack looked at the display thoughtfully. "We need to get closer, see exactly what they're doing with all this energy." "Too dangerous," said Zorban, one of the Alliance commanders. "If they detect us near their base, they could bring overwhelming force." "Which is why we don't take a fleet," said Abby. "We take one ship. Small team. Get in, gather intelligence, get out." Denholm looked surprised. "You're suggesting a direct infiltration of Voidborn territory. That's never been attempted." "Because you've always thought of them as just raiders," said Jack. "But they're not just attacking randomly. They have a purpose. We need to know what it is." After hours of debate, the plan was approved. The Pathfinder, with its human innovations and smaller profile, would undertake a stealth mission to the edge of the galaxy. Commander Patterson would join them as the Alliance liaison. As they prepared to depart, Dr. Bell pulled Jack aside. "There's something else you should know," she said quietly. "I've been analyzing the energy they collect. It has a strange property. It contains information." Jack frowned. "What do you mean?" "It's like they're not just collecting power," she explained. "They're collecting data, memories, something like that. Almost as if—" She hesitated. "As if what?" "As if they're gathering pieces of consciousness," she finished. "I don't know how else to explain it. It's beyond our current science." Jack felt a chill. "You think they're alive? Sentient?" "I think it's more complicated than that," she replied. "Just be careful out there." The Pathfinder departed that evening, its hull modified with light-absorbing materials to make it nearly invisible against the darkness of space. Frank had installed additional power dampeners, and Peter had created special sensors to detect Voidborn activity from a safe distance. As they left Alliance space, Jack thought about Dr. Bell's words. If the Voidborn weren't just raiders but collectors of consciousness, what were they planning to do with it? And who or what was directing them? "Course set for the edge of the galaxy," reported Abby from the helm. "Estimated arrival in 3 days." Jack nodded. "Take us in slowly. It's time to find out what the terror of the galaxy really wants." The Pathfinder drifted silently at the edge of the Voidborn complex. For 3 days, they had watched and recorded. What they found was both amazing and terrifying. "It's like a giant machine," whispered Peter, though there was no need to whisper in the ship's observation room. "The entire structure is artificial." The wall-sized display showed the dark web they had discovered earlier. Now, up close, they could see it was made of millions of interconnected devices. Energy flowed between them like blood in veins, all moving toward the center. "Look at the age readings," said Commander Patterson, pointing to the data. "Some of these components are thousands of years old. Others are newer." "They're building it piece by piece," said Jack. "That's why they've been raiding for centuries." Lisa had been unusually quiet. She stared at the display, her eyes moving quickly as if reading something no one else could see. "Lisa," Jack asked, "what are you seeing?" "Patterns," she said softly. "In the energy flows. They're not random. They're like a language." Before she could explain further, alarms blared throughout the ship. Multiple void-born ships approaching, called Abby from the bridge. They came out of nowhere. The crew rushed to their stations. Jack took the captain's chair as the main screen showed 3 void-born vessels moving rapidly toward them. "They've changed course," reported Abby with surprise. "They're not heading for us. They're heading for Earth." Earth? Jack couldn't believe it. How would they even know about Earth? Frank looked up from his console, his face pale. "The task force. We shared data with the Alliance ships. If the Voidborn can track their communications..." Jack didn't hesitate. "Full power to engines. We need to warn Earth." The Pathfinder shot away from the Voidborn complex, pushing its engines beyond safety limits. But the Voidborn ships were faster. They disappeared into subspace, taking a shortcut through dimensions. "Send an emergency message to Alliance headquarters," Jack ordered. "And to Earth. Tell them the Voidborn are coming." 3 days later, the Pathfinder arrived at Earth, expecting to find destruction. Instead, they found a battle. Earth's small defense fleet, normally no match for Voidborn technology, was holding its own. "How is this possible?" asked Commander Patterson in amazement. On screen, Earth ships were using tactics similar to what the Pathfinder had developed. They moved unpredictably, used minimal power signatures, and attacked from unusual angles. "They learned from our reports," said Jack with pride. "Earth took our tactics and improved them." As the Pathfinder joined the battle, Jack received a transmission from Earth Defense Command. Admiral Denholm was there, having rushed to Earth when the warning came through. "Captain Miller," she said, her silver face showing signs of strain. "The Voidborn have never targeted a civilian population before. This is different. They're not just taking energy. They're scanning our information networks, our databases." Peter and Lisa exchanged worried looks. "It's because of us," said Peter. "They see humans as a threat now." Admiral Denholm nodded. "The Alliance Council is meeting in emergency session. Some are suggesting we give the Voidborn what they want. Let them have access to certain systems if they'll leave populated worlds alone." "Appeasement," said Jack with disgust. "That never works." "There's something else," said Lisa suddenly. She had been analyzing data from the battle. "These Void-born ships, they're not like the others. Their energy signatures are different, more focused." Dr. Bell's face appeared on a second screen. She had stayed with the Alliance fleet. "Captain Miller, I've completed my analysis of the Void-born structure. It's not a weapon or a gateway. It's a resurrection machine." The bridge fell silent. "A what?" asked Jack. "They're trying to bring something back to life," she explained. "Something ancient. The energy they collect, the information, it's all going to rebuild some kind of consciousness." Jack looked at the battle raging around Earth with new understanding. The Voidborn weren't just raiders. They were servants, collecting what was needed to resurrect their masters, and humanity had just become their biggest obstacle. The Alliance Council chamber was filled with angry voices. Representatives from 50 species argued about what to do next. Some wanted to fight. Others wanted to run. A few even suggested giving the Voidborn whatever they wanted. Jack stood with his crew and Admiral Denholm. Earth's defense had pushed back the Voidborn attack, but everyone knew they would return. "Enough." Admiral Denholm's voice cut through the noise. "Captain Miller has a plan." All eyes turned to Jack. Just weeks ago, they had viewed humans with suspicion. Now they looked to them for salvation. "We can't outfight them," Jack began, "and we can't hide forever. But Dr. Bell and Sergeant Rogers have discovered something important." Frank stepped forward with Dr. Bell. Between them, they carried a small device that looked like a black cube. "This is a piece of Voidborn technology," said Frank. We managed to recover it during the battle at Earth. Dr. Bell continued. We've analyzed its programming. The Voidborn aren't living beings. They're machines. Very advanced machines with a simple core directive. Collect energy and information to resurrect their creators. Who are these creators? Asked Counselor Thrix. Peter answered. An ancient species that died out millions of years ago. The Voidborn are still following orders from ghosts. Lisa stepped forward. Her normally calm face showed excitement. I've been studying the patterns in their communications. With Commander Patterson's help, we think we can speak their language. Commander Patterson nodded. Not just speak it. We might be able to change their directives. The council erupted again, this time with shocked questions. Admiral Denholm raised her hand for silence. Captain Miller is proposing a mission to the center of the Voidborn complex. A small team would infiltrate their command structure and attempt to reprogram their core directives. Impossible, shouted Zorban. No one could get past their defenses. We're not suggesting a direct assault, said Abby with a thin smile. We're suggesting a Trojan horse. The alien representatives looked confused by the reference. Jack explained. We let them catch us. Or rather, we let them catch something they desperately want. Dr. Bell pulled up a display showing scans of human brain patterns. The Voidborn are particularly interested in human consciousness. Our brains process information differently than any species they've encountered. We think that's why they targeted Earth. You want to give them humans? Asked Chancellor Vex, his crystalline form pulsing with alarm. No, said Frank. We want to give them a ship carrying a special transmitter designed to look like valuable human data. When they take it back to their complex, we'll have our way in. The plan was dangerous. Jack would lead a small team including Abby, Frank, and Commander Patterson into Voidborn territory. They would appear to be damaged and vulnerable, carrying precious human brain scans. When captured, the transmitter would allow Lisa and Peter to establish a connection to the Voidborn systems. This is madness, said Counselor Thrix. Even if you reach their central command, how can you possibly reprogram beings whose technology is so far beyond ours? Lisa smiled gently. Because they're not as advanced as we thought. They're old, ancient. Their programming hasn't changed in millions of years. They're powerful, but she searched for the right word. Inflexible, provided Peter. They can't adapt quickly to something completely new. That's why human tactics work against them. Jack looked around the room. The Voidborn are trying to resurrect a dead civilization. A noble goal, perhaps, but not at the cost of living beings throughout the galaxy. If we can change their directive, tell them to use their technology to help the living rather than resurrect the dead, we might end this war without destroying them. Admiral Denholm stood beside Jack. The choice is yours, Council. We can continue fighting a war we cannot win, or we can try this human solution. After hours of debate, the Council agreed. Jack and his team began preparations immediately. The fate of the galaxy now rested on a plan so unexpected, so human, that the Voidborn could never predict it. The plan worked almost too well. The Voidborn ships found the seemingly damaged Pathfinder drifting in space, its power systems flickering. They didn't destroy it. Instead, they surrounded the small human vessel and pulled it into one of their massive carriers. They took the bait, whispered Abby, as the four-person team huddled in the hidden compartment Frank had built. The rest of the Pathfinder was empty, its systems running on automatic. Transmitter is active, said Frank, checking a small device strapped to his wrist. Lisa and Peter are receiving our signal. Back at Alliance headquarters, Lisa, Peter, and Dr. Bell watched as data streamed in from the transmitter. It showed the inside of a Voidborn ship for the first time. The walls pulsed with strange energy. Machine parts moved like living things. Fascinating, breathed Peter. They're biomechanical. Not fully machine, not fully organic. Lisa was focused on decoding the signals flowing through the Voidborn ship. I'm getting closer to understanding their command structure, she said. It's like a hive mind, but with clear levels of control. Hours passed as the Voidborn ship carried the Pathfinder deeper into their territory. Finally, it arrived at the central hub they had observed earlier. The massive structure loomed before them, dark energy flowing into its center. "Now or never," said Jack. The team slipped out of their hiding place and into the Voidborn ship. Using special suits Frank had designed to mask their life signs, they moved through corridors that seemed to breathe. No Voidborn challenged them. There were no crew as humans would understand them. The ship itself was alive in a strange way. "There," said Commander Patterson, pointing to a central chamber. "That's the connection to the main complex." They entered a vast room filled with swirling energy. At its center floated a dark crystal the size of a car. Pulses of light moved within it. "The control node," said Frank with awe. "Just like we predicted." He quickly set up the device they had brought. It would connect with Lisa back at headquarters, allowing her to send new programming into the Voidborn network. "Connection established," said Frank after several tense minutes. "Lisa, you're on." Light years away, Lisa began the delicate process of communicating with the Voidborn system. At first, there was resistance. The ancient programming fought back. "It's not working," she said with frustration. "Their core directive is too deeply embedded." Dr. Bell studied the incoming data. "The resurrection protocol is their primary function. We can't erase it." Peter had been quiet, thinking. "Then we don't erase it," he said suddenly. "We fulfill it." "What?" asked Lisa. "Their directive is to resurrect their creators," explained Peter. "But their creators are gone, completely gone. That's why they keep collecting more energy and data. They can never gather enough because what they seek doesn't exist anymore." "So we tell them that," said Lisa, understanding. "We give them proof their mission is impossible. And then we give them a new mission," added Dr. Bell. Back on the Voidborn ship, Jack and his team waited anxiously. Suddenly, the crystal before them changed color. The dark energy inside it swirled faster, then stopped completely. "Something's happening," said Abby, raising her weapon instinctively. The crystal glowed bright blue. A voice spoke, not in words, but directly into their minds. "Creator species. Extinct. Probability of resurrection. 0. Primary directive cannot be completed." Frank checked his device. "Lisa did it. She's showing them their creators are truly gone." The voice came again. "Request new directive." Jack stepped forward. "Preserve and protect living species. Share knowledge. Build rather than consume." For a long moment, nothing happened. Then the crystal pulsed with new light. New directive accepted. Throughout the galaxy, Voidborn ships stopped their attacks. The vast web of ancient technology that had been built to resurrect the dead now turned its power toward helping the living. 1 month later, Jack stood with Admiral Denholm on the observation deck of the newly built Unity station. Below them, humans worked alongside Alliance species and reprogrammed Voidborn units. "I still can't believe it worked," said Denholm. Jack smiled. "Sometimes the best way to defeat an enemy is to make them a friend." The former terrors of the galaxy now shared their advanced technology freely, and humanity, once feared for its unpredictability, had found its place among the stars.